आप सबके काम का सेशन है। यहाँ हम बात करेंगे हायर एजुकेशन की, किस तरीके से हम ग्लोबल होते जा रहे हैं और किस तरीके से हायर एजुकेशन को री इमेजिन करने की ज़रूरत है। प्रोफेसर पद्मनाभन, बहुत बहुत आपका स्वागत है हमारे पास, हमारे साथ आने के लिए। जब हम बात करते हैं री इमेजिनिंग हायर एजुकेशन, तो एक चीज़ जो हम जानना चाहेंगे कि री इमेजिनिंग की ज़रूरत क्यों पड़ी, और ये जिस तरह अगर भारत की बात करें, यहाँ पे एक हमारे पास डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड है, तो ऐसे में जब हम री इमेजिन करेंगे तो क्या सही तरीका हो? इंक्रीमेंटल वे में हो या फिर एक पूरे बदलाव की ज़रूरत है? हायर एजुकेशन में सब कुछ बदलने की ज़रूरत है, क्या सोचते हैं आप?
Thank you so much for having me here. This topic is of personal interest to me, and I would, really suggest that this topic should not just be a conversational topic, but I think we should all think about this now, because it's not just about reimagining higher education space. I strongly feel that our existence is actually being challenged now. It's not just about higher university or school education. I think the very concept of education is being challenged. The basic ideas of education is being challenged. So let me give you an example. We all went to school, we all went to university. We all understand that there exists a degree system. We call it as undergraduate degree, master's degree. My idea of reimagining education and why it is challenged is, do you think in next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, something like a degree or a master's degree will even exist? I think that's the quintessential question, and that is why we are all thinking about how we need to reimagine higher education space, because I think the idea of learning itself is changing, and largely because of artificial intelligence. And I think it is not only asking these questions, but I think universities need to start adapting, start thinking, start ideating. And I think how we want to educate the future, how we want to make them employer ready, I think it is going to be very interesting next 10-15 years for all universities in India.
प्रोफेसर पद्मनाभ, चीज़ें जिस तरीके से बदल रही हैं, जब हम छोटे थे तो हमें कहा जाता था कि स्पेशलाइजेशन का ज़माना आने वाला है। अब कहा जाता है कि इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी मॉडल है। आप एआई के साथ लिबरल आर्ट्स भी ले सकते हो, आप कंप्यूटर के साथ ह्यूमैनिटीज़ ले सकते हो। जीजेयू की अगर बात करें, यहाँ पे अगर आपके यहाँ आपने इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी मॉडल को अडॉप्ट किया है, एम्ब्रेस किया है, क्या सही रास्ता है? जो बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पे हैं, उनके मन में सवाल होगा कि हम स्पेशलाइजेशन की तरफ जाएं या अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन के साथ जाएं। क्या आपको लगता है फ्यूचर कहाँ है?
This question was very well debated in 2023 World Economic Forum, and I think there was an entire session which was actually where not just one stakeholder, which is student, parents or faculty, but I think it was a multi-stakeholder discussion. What is going to be important and how education is going to be relevant were the two things that were discussed. Interdisciplinary, I think every university is interdisciplinary today. Everybody is interdisciplinary. Everybody wants to go and experience and explore beyond their degree and beyond their subjects. But what is going to be really important is, and I think it was said in 23 and I want to reiterate, is skill-based education. Many of the universities, even today, the purpose of education is degree completion. I think we are slowly moving into skill, we are moving into research, we are moving into innovation. Now, innovation is a new subject in India which we are talking, but if you historically speak, world's largest innovations came when three stakeholders came together: university, state and industry. There is not even a single product that was innovated 50-60 years before, which are world's biggest innovation, which was done by either individuals or by universities or just by state. You take biggest innovations, all three stakeholders came together. I think the call is the same now. If India needs to move from where we are today to a complete innovation driven economy, I think the call is the state, the industry and individuals need to come together. And I think that is where we are talking about skill, research and innovation based education vis-a-vis degree based innovation.
Professor, universities have largely been centered around placements, about examinations. Now, when we are talking about reimagining higher education, where is the place of critical thinking about asking questions and engagement with the industry? How do you see, how can we club both? कैसे करें कि हम एक तरफ हम critical thinking को भी प्रमोट करें और साथ ही जो स्टूडेंट्स की ज़रूरतें हैं, रोज़गार है, जॉब है, उनके ऊपर भी ध्यान रहें, क्या रास्ता हो?
You know, we are working on this very important project. Let me tell you, the assessment in an education system ought to change. You know, the examination model ought to change. You know, there are two important models which I'll tell all the audience to go read about it. It's called the Bloom's taxonomy and the Solo taxonomy model. The reason why I'm talking about this is very, very important. If I project all the Indian universities on the Bloom's taxonomy pattern, I think Indian universities would score 2 out of 6. That means to say that basically we are testing on knowledge and, you know, of the subject, and we are basically testing them on the understanding of the subject. I think these two things is now going to be completely replaced by AI. If I want to know something, I can ask AI. If I want to understand something, I can ask AI. But what AI cannot do is creative thinking, problem solving, and maybe to some extent analytical reasoning. Now, for these three things, the way of questioning in our examination system also needs to change. So that is where I think the next, you know, generation of innovations are going to be, on which new universities will emerge, where they are going to challenge the way the education ought to be delivered, moving from knowledge-based system to what Bloom's taxonomy beautifully captures is creative and analytical and problem solving. Now this is very, very crucial why I'm talking to you. Now if I do not educate my system on students on these three parameters, they are going to really struggle to get the future jobs. One end we have AI threatening and replacing some monotonous job which every human being can do. The other side, companies are not wanting to recruit people with degrees. You know, these two are very unique challenges. You look at IT, IBM, Google, Amazon, Nvidia have made it very clear. They are not looking at any degree or from which university you are actually graduating. They are looking what skills you have, what capacity you have, how you can, you know, actually contribute. The other side we are talking about where our education system is more relevant, AI actually replacing those small jobs. So it is very unique, and the education system is going to be the most challenged, I would say, institute or corporate or industry at this time, because we have to take both the sides of the coin. One, how do we educate students, and how do we make them relevant? So I think it is time for education, institutions to go back on their blackboard, look at three things. How do we want to test our students? How do we want to educate our students? And how do we make our students relevant?
प्रोफेसर, एआई जॉब मार्केट को तो पूरी तरह से डिस्टर्ब कर रहा है और यहाँ पे जितने स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनके मन में बहुत सारे सवाल होंगे कि जब वो जो स्किल वो यहाँ ले रहे हैं, जब वो ग्रेजुएट करेंगे उसके बाद वो स्किल रेलिवेंट रहेगी नहीं. कुछ चीज़ें आपने बताई कि जो एआई रिप्लेस नहीं कर सकता है, क्रिएटिव थिंकिंग, एनालिटिकल थिंकिंग. जब आप अपने करिकुलम में, अपने यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर एआई को इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उसके बिना अब तो काम चलेगा नहीं, तो कौन सी चीज़ें हैं, कौन सी स्किल है जो इन स्टूडेंट्स के पास रहनी चाहिए जो कि आगे उनको फ्यूचर जॉब मार्केट में रेलिवेंट बनाए रखेगा? और दूसरा कि एआई के साथ एथिक्स की बात भी आती है, तो आप कैसे ये दोनों चीज़ें इन स्टूडेंट्स में डाल सकते हैं, और क्या कौन सी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो इन बच्चों के साथ होनी चाहिए? एआई को तो हम आना ही आना है, लेकिन एआई के साथ कौन सी स्किल है जो इनको ज़्यादा रेलिवेंट बनाएगी जॉब मार्केट में?
You know, this is very, very important question, and my answer to that question is very simple. Indian education system and largely Western-based education system has always been linear. After class 12, I'll do undergraduate degree. After undergraduate degree, I have to do master's degree. I think students of this generation needs to understand it's the same. Whether you study in India, you go to UK, you go to Australia, you go to US, learning is now going to become lifelong. You like it, you don't like it. And it is going to become modular. What is modular? I want to do in 3 hours. I want to understand how do I use AI for legal profession. If that module is available, I should be able to go learn that module. And if that module is important. So modular is breaking down your degrees into shorter certifications and micro credentials, which will make you more relevant and learning lifelong. So this is how institutions also needs to adjust. Almost all the universities will become the Coursera's of the world, where you're going to go and explore stackability. I don't want to study political science. Maybe I want to study applications of political science to this. I may not want to study history. Maybe I want to study history to the extent that I can go and give somebody a tour. So it is going to become very modular, and it is going to become more micro-credential. That is what is going to make students' learning journey lifelong. And I think that is what is going to make them more skill development and more relevant in market, rather than which is very linear and which has been told to them after K-12 degree after degree masters is going to get replaced very soon.
एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूँगा, अगर आपको कहा जाए एक टू डिज़ाइन एन आइडियल यूनिवर्सिटी, इंडियन यूनिवर्सिटी फॉर 2040, what it would look like, and I know you're working on something like that, कौन कौन सी चीज़ें होंगी, क्योंकि टाइम बदल रहा है, करिकुलम बदल रहा है, AI सब कुछ डिस्टर्ब कर रहा है, 2040 में अगर आपको एक यूनिवर्सिटी को री इमेजिन किया जाए, क्या चीज़ें होंगी उसके अंदर?
Let me tell you, we are already disrupting that. We have identified 1 or 2 new programs in our university which is going to disrupt, I think in next 5-6 years is going to disrupt the entire undergraduate system in India, education system. I feel education just cannot happen and be limited within the boundaries of university. You know, I have traveled all around the world. I have explored the beautiful option of education in co-op programs, which exist only at master's level as we speak today. The 2 of the universities which have mastered this is Drexel in US and Northeastern and Northwestern universities in US. They have done this beautifully in their master's program. We are now experimenting this in undergraduate system, where for 1 full year we are dividing it into 4 quarters. They would start with a university. 2nd quarter they will go to an industry. 3rd quarter they will study online. 4th quarter they'll come back to university. So every year there needs to be an integral part of university and education journey that ought to be shared with serious employers who are actually going to become part of a unique learning system. Their feedback is very important, and very, very important as to whether students are relevant or not. So we have started 3 programs in our campus: Bachelor's in Artificial Intelligence and Finance, AI in Finance, and again Finance and Entrepreneurship, and BCom ACA program, where students come to campus only for 6 months. The other 6 months they're actually interning, working with the industry, understanding what they're learning, is it relevant or not. So unless you don't disrupt your undergraduate education system, I think the next generations of universities are going to be focused on more embedded, strong focus on problem solving, project-based learning, and absolute integration with employers and industry. I think that is where the next generation of industry and programs will be inclined towards.
Professor, national education policy में बहुत ज़्यादा focus flexibility के ऊपर था, multiple entries, multiple exits, you can choose whichever course you want to. What role you think private universities like Jindal Global University play in this higher educational reform, and what are the key things that you're working on?
You know, I think NEP is a very, very, very positive thing for India. And we are outthinking, outsmarting almost many, education systems in the world. The one positive which I feel is Indian universities have always had the dearth of faculty. Because again, we look linear. To become a faculty, I have to do UG, I have to do masters, and then I have to do PhD. By the time I do PhD, I'm already struggling, right? And then I have to again write another exam to become a part of the faculty. What NEP has done is very innovative. NEP has given a mechanism where students can fast track their research interest, fast track their idea of becoming a faculty. I'll give you an example. There is no jurisdiction in the world where after 4 years of undergraduation with a research pathway, you can straightly go and do PhD. India is exceptional in this. Any university which is implementing NEP will know that it is important for institutions to create research pathway as part of their 4 years undergraduate program. And if students intend to do this research pathway as part of the 4 years undergraduate program, they can straight go and do PhD. They don't have to do masters. This helps students to dream about being a faculty, being a researcher. They can fast track and if they're very good, they can even take faculty positions very young in age. And that is very crucial for research, writing, publication, and for the journey of a teacher. It is very important how you start, where you start, how quickly you start. And I think this is a unique experimentation under NEP. Institutions we are going to get right are going to create the amazing faculty for next 10, 15 years are going to emerge from this NEP. And I think it's an absolutely welcoming move. And I also think that we are very futuristic. If you want to build institutions, you cannot build institutions without human capital. I think NEP is giving you this idea of building human capital, and I think that is why it is really welcome.
लेकिन अभी भी जब ग्लोबल टॉप यूनिवर्सिटीज़ की लिस्ट आती है, हम बहुत कम इंडियन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ उसमें देख पाते हैं. आपको लगता है विद दीज रिफॉर्म्स दैट NEP इज ब्रिंगिंग एंड योर यूनिवर्सिटीज़ एंड अदर यूनिवर्सिटीज़ आर ब्रिंगिंग, हम आने वाले दिनों में, अगले 10 सालों में, देयर विल बी मोर इंडियन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ इन द ग्लोबल लिस्ट?
I don't know which ranking you're looking at, sir, but since I head the rankings of this, university, I can very clearly tell you that Indian universities are doing very good in world university rankings, and in fact, they're doing exceptionally good in the subject rankings. If you look at the 2025 ranking, some of our, engineering colleges, law schools in India, and even I would say medical institutions are doing exceptionally well in subject rankings in India. And I would say that India is going to only improve strength by strength because ranking came to India very late. It came to India in 2010 when institutions had already into ranking for hundreds of years, right? So I would say that you should give a benefit of doubt to Indian universities. They've come into this very late. And I think it will only be fair to say that Indian universities will grow strength to strength. And I think 2026 is going to be very special for Indian universities when it comes to rankings.
Okay. चलिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया इस पूरे इंसाइटफुल तरीके से हायर एजुकेशन को कैसे हम री इमेजिन कर पाएँ उसके बारे में बात करने के लिए. कुछ जो स्टूडेंट्स के मन में कुछ सवाल होंगे वो भी आपने एड्रेस किए हैं. ओवरऑल भविष्य भारतीय यूनिवर्सिटीज़ का है, ये आपने बताया है. प्रोफेसर पद्मनाभ, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमसे बात करने के लिए और इस शानदार चर्चा के लिए. और इसी के साथ हम समापन होता है हमारे इस कार्यक्रम का, उड़ान OP जिंदल एडिशन का, जिसे प्रेजेंट किया है UTI म्यूचुअल फंड की इस पार्टनरशिप के साथ, CNBC आवाज़ की इस पार्टनरशिप के साथ. आप सभी यहाँ आए, आपने सवाल पूछे, आपने ये सेशन को सुना. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया.
थैंक यू.